I always use this expression: if you don't increase your competence every year by 15% or so with new technologies, in 3 years' time, you're half as relevant. So you want to stay on top of those things, cater for industry trends and consumer trends, transcending and developing with research and development our relevance to making cars perform better by having what we call the Pirelli Perfect Fit, a dedicated tire to a specific model, whether it be a Porsche 911 or a Ferrari or a Aston Martin of some sort. And we're working along with the manufacturers to develop that tire so that they know with ultimate confidence the car can perform at the levels it's intended to and perhaps beyond, but provide you the braking, acceleration, the lateral forces, the safety under numerous conditions, so that they can drive with confidence. And you get a driver's view of what it feels like to go around the track. You've got this top class instructor talking you through it, the car going side to side, and that's a road car. On Pirelli tires, Formula One cars even faster, sometimes 25, 30 seconds. It just gives you an experience which is so memorable, you'll never forget that. You can record it with your phone as well, or we send you the link afterwards and share with your friends and peers. Good afternoon, this is Oosthuizen, the Chief Marketing Officer for Pirelli North America. Welcome to Cars and Culture with Jason Stein, and I'm delighted to be here.
We're definitely delighted to have you, Andre. Welcome to the program. You and I go a long way back. We're going to talk a little bit about that, but just thank you for being a guest here on Cars and Culture.
Yeah, I'm absolutely honored, and nothing more fun than talking about cars and anything automotive related.
It's funny, you're our first tire guest, which is a fascinating part of this program. It only took us nearly 200 guests to get to you, but I'm honored to have you. But let me start with yachting. Let me start with where I saw the Pirelli name recently, and it was on the side of a massive, beautiful boat, a yacht, if you will, the Luna Rossa Prada Pirelli, and competing in the waters off the coast of Barcelona. A funny place to find Pirelli. Andre, tell me about that.
Well, I can proudly speak as a Pirellian. We are a brand with many touch points. I think you've got the legacy of the Pirelli calendar, argument's sake, the hangar of Bicocca up in Milano. And yes, one of our endeavors has been a partner of Pirelli Prada Luna Rossa for many years. And there's been great anticipation for, call it the shootout of Louis Vuitton Cup, which is the tournament that precedes and feeds into the final to take on Emirates New Zealand. And I was fortunate enough to, a couple of weeks ago, to be over there, host some guests that participated, and we could see some of the action on day one. So it's been an epic shootout. Unfortunately, just prior to us coming on air, we just learned about the news that we lost in the shootout, so we didn't make it to the final. But fantastic sport, getting associated and affiliated with it, and you see the impact. And also technology of like Formula One in carbon fiber, lightweight, even the steering and the cockpit per se. It is really enlightening to see what these teams, the extremes they go to go on any second or quarter of a second advantage. And it's different racing from being out there in the ocean. There's the match racing is really tricky, and you need to know your story and get your timing right at the start. So fun, and we are pretty proud to be a partner, and congratulations to our team as well. We appreciate your efforts, and yeah, maybe next time.
It's funny, we've had two guests on this program who said exactly what you have said. One being Lynn Calder, the CEO of Ineos, and of course it was the Ineos boat that prevailed in that example, and Tucker Thompson, who's a racing commentator, and talked about all of the similarities between Formula One and yachting and racing in the water. And you just brought up the same thing. The similarities of Formula One and highly competitive, dynamic, efficient environments transcend multiple sports, don't they, Andre?
They do, and that's why you can see some of these experts finding their way, migrating into other companies. And Adrian Newey is quite a big talking point at the moment. heading over to Aston Martin, which
Yeah.
is a huge coup for them. But I think some of the innovation, science interpretation thereof, just to give you that slight little edge, because at the highest sport, their competition is so tough, and you want to put yourself in the proverbial inside lane. So it's wonderful to see and appreciate the dedication and devotion of these team members to excel at the highest level and take the accolade, especially in an Olympic year. I know it's not directly related to the Olympics, but Barcelona was spectacular, wonderful venue to host the America's Cup, and I'm looking forward to see who will ultimately prevail.
You're in a completely different environment than maybe the last time that I saw you. And the last time that I saw you was the construction was well underway, had actually been completed in Atlanta when you were the CMO of Porsche. And we'll talk a little bit about your pathway there. What have you had to learn about tires?
Oh boy, yeah. Where do you start?
Everything.
I think it's probably one of the most discounted topics when you talk about either buying, purchasing a vehicle and your ownership experience, because so much of it relies on where the proverbial rubber meets the road, and you want to make sure you've got the optimum performance. Is it ride and handling? Is it braking in the dry or in the wet? And then, of course, if you go in all-terrain or off-road in the snowy segments, you want to know that you're best prepared to put your safety as a primary concern first. And then the advent of newer segments, such as the all-weather, which in this particular instance does have the three-peak mountain snowflake branding. So it gives you the benefit of maybe not having to change tires when you have the seasonal change. So all I can say, it's been a dynamic industry. I've learned a lot. And with a company like Pirelli really focusing on high customer value with premium propositions, and also to do so successfully and profitably, you've got your work cut out for you. And meeting with partners, the industry is significant with a few key players, but you can find a tire store on almost every street corner. So, how do you make yourself relevant and applicable to them, and then try and have an influence on the end consumer to have to adopt your brand, or to have the conviction that they can confidently purchase, enjoy an ownership experience for, as you know, we sometimes guarantee 55, 60,000 miles on a set of tires, which in Europe is unheard of, right?
Right, exactly. Amazing. Pirelli, 152 years this year, right? Founded in Milan, and the global standard for, as you said, cutting edge technology, high end production excellence, passion for innovation. And that mirrors many of your previous experiences, the brands that you worked with, doesn't it?
It does, and I feel I call it the intrinsic motivation of working for a prestige or a top tier brand. You buy into a culture, it's a mindset, and it's always to challenge, and not rest on your laurels. Because I always use this expression: if you don't increase your competence every year by 15% or so with new technologies, in 3 years' time, you're half as relevant. So you want to stay on top of those things, cater for industry trends and consumer trends. And in our particular case now, you've got the huge expectation of Gen Z and millennials, and the expectation of sustainability. So to do so in a responsible and accountable fashion makes the work even harder to scientifically interpret future trends coming our way and adapt accordingly, but still with a competitive and compelling product proposition. So I know it's a loaded statement, but just I think a suffice summary to say that the industry is exceptionally dynamic.
Yeah. Coming out of Volvo, where you got your start, and Ford and Porsche, Haggerty, Jaguar, Land Rover, where was the biggest learning curve to go into something that was not entirely manufactured as a vehicle, but instead manufactured to support the vehicle?
Oh, man, I must say, I have been fortunate to be part of companies which have tried to reinvent, reimagine themselves, or launch themselves into a new technological era. And I'll probably run through, but Volvo gone from the boxy conception of the Swedes. You remember maybe an 850 T5R, they used to call it the Lemon, was 250 horsepower, front wheel drive. Used to it'd be like a crab all over the place. But then they took it to the British Touring Car Championship. So phenomenal brand. And then they went and adopted a new design with Peter Horbury. So that was instrumental and wonderful to see their successes, particularly in a continent like North America today. I then went and joined the Ford Motor Company stable, different brand because it's in the volume segment, a much tougher slog. You work on your month ends every 30 days, but you learn a lot from dealers, have an acute pulse on the market, and also, again, good leadership skills, which you then learned and started to adopt in your career. And then my journey with Porsche started first in the Middle East as marketing responsible for about 24 countries, Middle East, Africa, and India. And then my venture in North America started when I was appointed the CMO of Porsche North America. And that was at a critical time. We just came out of the recession, which hit everybody hard. People started frowning on buying luxury goods, yet alone expensive cars. And the market had really gone backwards. So it's almost Control, Alt, Delete, resetting, picking up the reins. And we were under really strong leadership with Detlev von Platen. We had a strong vision and say, it's times like these that you need to double down and invest. And we took a decision to build a brand-worthy home for Porsche. We were in a building in North Atlanta, 2.5 floors, very unassuming. And, under his stewardship and his vision, we identified and designed a new concept for the Porsche Experience Center Atlanta, but also One Porsche Drive, which brings in an ideal world, your customers together with your employees. And we realized that vision in 2015. And then with the track where people can experience all your products, brand touch points, restaurants, a cafe, you don't get a better immersive experience for a brand than the full Porsche Experience Center. And then we also endeavored our efforts towards the West Coast, and we built the Experience Center Los Angeles. Again, similar, but just a bigger track. Very fortunate to find a spot of land, which turned out to be a landfill in Los Angeles, but build it close to LAX, 15 minutes south. And again, in an area where there's a large concentration of consumers, potential people who can invest and come and buy your experiences and provide in something which is second to none in the heart of a city. So it really helped uplift the brand, the connection with the US audience, and also suffice to call out the Porsche Club of America, who are strong supporters of the project and anything that the brand does. So it's wonderful to see that fellowship amongst that Porsche community.
You're a trendsetter with experience centers. I mean, we have seen them in Europe, of course, with the BMW Welt and what the Autostadt has with Volkswagen in Wolfsburg, what Mercedes has. I mean, Porsche obviously also in Stuttgart. But for America to have that kind of experience, and now there are rumors of other brands doing the same thing here, you were really ahead of the curve there, weren't you?
Yeah, I always refer to when timing and opportunity kind of cross paths or collide. We were just very fortunate that we had Dr. Porsche and the rest of the board's backing at that point in time, and they decided to invest. And if we look back now, probably the best decision ever, because the facility is standing, the growth in the number of attendees, and just infusing people with the flavor of the brand, hosting your dealer partners, and then them seeing you walking talk, right? Also investing, hosting consumers so can speak to it firsthand as opposed to, the manufacturer-dealer relationship where it's do this, do that. So we forged a closer lines, and that gave us great credibility with our dealer partners as well.
When we switch back to tires, I've seen you say that 4 out of 5 cars that are sold today are SUVs, effectively. Consumers want versatility. They want that higher seating position. They want comfort, but they also want there is a demand for high performance tires that cater to both traditional combustion and electric vehicles. So I know Pirelli is addressing both of those trends in their offerings. how much are you learning along the way, and how are you applying that to what you're trying to sell in that the dominant SUV market with both sets of propulsion systems?
I think it's, yeah, firstly, absolutely a relevant observation. 7, 8 years ago, it was 20% SUVs, 80% sedans and Grand Tourers, and it's now the inverse of that. So, yes, I think as consumers evolved, they appreciate all those acute features that you highlighted. But SUVs have also evolved that they don't need to be big and bulky and boring anymore. So the designs are very dynamic. Many of these SUVs have got significant horsepower, and to ensure that you get the optimum combination of ride and handling and the connection with the road, you want a high-performing tire, and that plays straight into the strengths of Pirelli as a brand. So we're synonymous with ultra-high performance, strong affiliation, and we'll probably talk a little bit about more with Formula One for more than almost 15 years now, and it's transcending and developing with research and development our relevance to making cars perform better by having what we call the Pirelli Perfect Fit, a dedicated tire to a specific model, whether it be a Porsche 911 or a Ferrari or a Aston Martin of some sorts. And we're working along with the manufacturers to develop that tire so that they know with ultimate confidence the car can perform at the levels it's intended to and perhaps beyond, but provide you the braking, acceleration, the lateral forces, the safety under numerous conditions, so that they can drive with confidence. So, a lot of our high performance, it's coupled and banded under the halo of P0. It's our legacy, and it's what we've worked to build and credibly set ourselves apart in the ultra high performance segment. But then we've also have got for the growing SUV segment, our Scorpion range and Scorpion Zero, which borrows from P0 but adds the performance component to our SUV lineup per se. So constantly evolving with the trends and ensuring that we have a compelling, worthy customer proposition. And then I'd like to touch on electrification, as you called it out. Arguably, the biggest change in our industry in the last century, right? So who would have guessed? And Tesla, credit to them, trendsetters at the beginning. There's been a lot of speculation over the last 15 years. When is it going to set in? How quick is it going to accelerate? And it's been slower than everybody's probably anticipated or expected. And you can see where the manufacturers, are they going to go, this model going to be fully electric, or is it going to still remain a ICE combustion engine, which is not easy because it comes at significant investment. And I think we're going through that evolution now, the transition period, plug-in hybrids also having strong resonance. But, with that higher weight, it puts more demand on the tires and the sidewalls. So it's not just copying and pasting from combustion engines, and our Pirelli Elect range has been specifically developed and engineered as a perfect fit to a particular car, but also featuring that technologies with reinforced sidewalls, Pirelli noise cancellation system, which helps to reduce the noise, increasing the comfort of your drive, and all contributing towards you enjoying your EV or your electric vehicle experience. And we have been chosen in more than 50% of the cases of sport and premium manufacturers coming to the market where they opt to go with the skills and expertise of Pirelli. So we pride ourselves in that. It's not necessarily that we rest on our laurels, but you continuously innovate to try and develop either a new technology or perform better. And in the case of EVs, it's about lower rolling resistance, because you want to get the extra mile on that particular vehicle. And that's for your new car market. But in the replacement market, people are looking for mileage. So it's almost, you've got that contrast of buyers where if you've got optimized rolling resistance, I want a 50 or 55 or 60,000 miles on my car, on my set of tires. So it's trying to balance the two in a competitive proposition for the customer.
And remarkable, just as much as car manufacturers have technology that transcends down to from Formula One down to the average passenger vehicle. As you said, there are technologies. There is the manufacturing technique that mimics what happens from Formula One all the way down. But let's talk about Formula One, because not everybody on the street needs to go over 220 miles an hour in a straightaway and come to a dead stop in 4 seconds. Not usually. Or pull north of 5Gs in the corners under heavy braking, all the things that you do with Formula One. Why does Pirelli remain an exclusive sponsor to Formula One? Why does it matter? What's the benefit of it all?
Well, I think that's a fantastic question. And in a market like North America, where we've got the top sports between, you've got football, NFL, you've got basketball, you've got college football, you've got, soccer, which has become such a great phenomenon with the professional teams expanding, and so on and so forth. So, so many eyeballs and sports which are vying for consumers' eyes. So, for us, I think Formula One is just at such a juncture where it's become more of a global sport. It has euphorically risen, and with it building its connection with consumers, males, females, a younger target group, strongly digitally enabled. And why it's important for us is, I think over the last 15 years or so, we've built up strong credibility with the Pirelli tire lineup. People have become accustomed to all the different colors and compounds: soft, medium, hard, intermediate, and wet. And then a milestone development for us has also been the change from the 13-inch to the 18-inch wheel, which trying to make it closer to a road car. So some of the technologies and the thinking can be transferred into road vehicles and the tires that go into those cars. But there was a seamless transition, with that big step in terms of dynamics and performance. And credit and testimony to our engineers, which put that to the test, came up with reliable products. And I think it's very seldom that you hear one of the drivers, complain about the tires or the tire wear, etc. And I think this season we've seen it 2-3 instances on the hard compound where, like George Russell, had the confidence to go through and I think completed 33 of 34 laps and ultimately won the Grand Prix. We know what transpired afterwards, but it's actually testimony that the tire overperformed. And the team made a strategic decision, took a bit of a gamble, and it was nice to see the surprise element of a new victor on the podium for that particular race and many others during the course of this year.
Is that just the pinnacle when George Russell does something like that? I mean, so often, right, Andre? Very few people talk about the tires as being the benefit of or the ultimate differentiator in a race, but boy, they are quick to say, well, the tires didn't work in this example. But with George Russell, it was exactly that. And I was thinking of you during that race, that how that's a podium finish for Pirelli anyway, isn't it?
It is. And we pride ourselves of the affiliation, and we've now extended until 2028. So I think both entities appreciate the partnership. But what we value is most instances, if you sponsor an event and you're secondary, but you are brought to you by, what we value of Formula One is it's a technical partnership. So our products are put to the test. So you collaborate together, and all the competitors are competing with the same product, but at the highest level. They each get their set of individually coded tires for the weekend, and they can go and adjust the tire pressures, etc. And then it's kind of a showdown to see who's going to make the best decision, especially during free practice, what performance you get on the medium, on the hard, because you need to run the two compounds. And then when everything's said and done on race day, who can undercut the other by 1.5 or 2 seconds? And I think a few close races already is testament to strategy and tire performance coming into play. And one last observation on that is we've also seen how different cars perform differently depending on the tire compound that's being used. In the case of George Russell, particularly, he's made a few comments. But if you had to ask Lando Norris the same question, or Oscar Piastri, and Max will probably be somewhere in between. But it's good that people feel that there is not a guaranteed competitor on a Sunday afternoon. But when they are racing at 200 plus miles an hour, they've got the safest, high-performing dynamic compound to drive and steer the vehicle as far as ride and handling is concerned, and then provide a wonderful spectacle for the audience and the spectators. I believe it's Formula One have got more than 120 corporate entities now being part of the series or a team, which is fantastic. A couple of years ago, it was a sport that kind of reached the ceiling. So credit to Liberty coming on board, investing in the future, and seeing some of the major stakeholders, which have, as early as this week, also announcing some new expanded partnerships. So we are excited to be a part of it, and we clearly know our role, and we want to see the sport grow. And again, it's a strong promotional marketing opportunity for us to put our products to the test, and they can see us every Sunday or 24 Sundays and see how Pirelli performs at the highest level.
Yeah, we just had Greg Maffei on as our guest last week, and he was talking about this exceptional growth curve that Formula One is on. Does it open the door? And I'm guessing the answer is yes here, but I'll let you describe the answer. Does it open the door to all kinds of new potential audiences for you, given the demographic change that's gone on?
It certainly does. If you look at the audiences, particularly in Europe versus here, Europe probably more traditional. Here, I think Austin started, if you went there in 2012, 13, not many people in attendance, then gradually started attending. We added Miami to the circuit 3 years ago. And that brought about a completely different dynamic, obviously with a US or North American spin, when you have the celebrities and the stars. And I think that just triggered by social media and your Instagram and TikTok follows, a phenomenon which has almost been like a tsunami, just the momentum building, people following it, wanting to be part of the action, and it's become a weekend spectacle as opposed to just the race Sunday. So that being said, the digital channels, more information is available. You can see what's going on behind the scenes, and also credit to Netflix with the Drive to Survive. It was a perfect time when we saw the 2020 season showdown go down to the wire between Lewis Hamilton and, of course, Max Verstappen. One of the most controversial, probably last laps you will ever see in sport. Got everybody talking, and people who didn't know about it wanted to get an idea what this was all about. So that was, again, a perfect opportunity to put the sport up there, and everybody got a piece of it. And I think we've seen that growth now, particularly here in North America and in South America, the passionate following, people enjoying the race weekend. You go to Canada, Montreal is one of the most amazing Grand Prix. In Mexico, when you drive through the stadium there, they just love, so local Euro Checo. So it's just, we're very proud to see people love and enjoy the sport that is, communicating more about what's going on a week-to-week basis with the drivers. And this season has been particularly interesting with the driver changes and some of the selections already being made 3/4 of the way into the season with a view on 2025. Interesting, maybe some bold ones, but I think if you look at Colapinto, he's already proven, wow, he can get something out of that car, which his predecessor could not. And you want to see a few youngsters also coming through the ranks and vying for top spots or the seats in the top teams.
It's amazing. It gets younger and younger, and the sport gets more dynamic. And having been following it for the most of my lifetime, it is unprecedented to see the level of support around it. And you really use the opportunity. I'll think back to Miami here, because you and I interacted during that weekend. You actually use it to get more people in more cars and exposure to the Pirelli Hot Lap Experience. Explain that for those who probably don't know.
Yeah, I think we in an era where access or experiences that money can't buy are so important. So we've got some corporate clients that we have the opportunity to put them through a hot lap with experienced drivers in any one of the top cars that are predominantly the F1 teams, and you get a driver's view of what it feels like to go around the track. You've got this top class instructor talking you through it, the car going side to side, and that's a road car on Pirelli tires. Formula One cars even faster, sometimes 25, 30 seconds. it just gives you an experience which is so memorable. You'll never forget that. You can record it with your phone as well, or we send you the link afterwards and share with your friends and peers. But like I said, it's an experience that you can't just pick up every day. And to get behind the scene, close to the pit lane, walking the start stop line, getting into a car, putting your helmet on, and just seeing the audience around the track as you go through all the curves and enjoying the experience. It is something that you will remember for the rest of your life. When you go to Canada, down to the hairpin, of course, high braking zone, and that's one of the impressive things of Formula One cars. I think the acceleration is one thing, but you mentioned it, how quickly they decelerate. And then going on to the next corner. So we actively promote that, and we try and create some opportunities for the general public to partake or participate. And we launch some running promotions where you can enter your name, and if you get drawn, you're going to get a remarkable weekend which you will never forget.
Yeah, well, it's a special experience, absolutely. Let's talk a little bit about marketing in general, just in about the 10 minutes or so we have left. Is it harder to be a marketer today, Andre? Or is it just different?
I think it's a combination of both. The world is unequivocally evolved, and with social media and always on channels, you are vying for every second of a customer's eyes, heart, mind, and trying to appeal to the senses. So it is very, very hard, especially if you consider in the tire industry, there are so many brands. Do people have loyalty? How do they consider? So you need to give them a compelling reason to believe in your product and how you could go about. So you have your work cut out for you. I think it's a question of choosing the smart battles or the smart opportunities, really reinforcing your strength, your DNA, playing to what sets your brand apart, and then using various channels of communication and your influencer fraternity to continue the dialogue and the message. And a brand doesn't just have one touch point or one message. As I said, in the case of Pirelli, yes, it's our original equipment manufactured tires, but our replacement range. You talk about the Pirelli calendar, you talk about Pirelli events, we talked about sailing earlier on. So it's just to show that the brand is very dynamic, it's got cultural touch points as well. And more than anything else, almost like a belief system, the values that organization portrays, I believe in it and I want to follow them. So you do have your work cut out, and on a daily basis, whether it be with the trade or the end consumers, we try and find smart, creative ways connecting our brand and putting it into a position where we can ensure our continued sustainable success.
Yeah, gone are the days of simply running print advertising and possibly a few television spots and sort of, letting it ride and saying goodbye. I mean, this just doesn't exist anymore.
No, it doesn't. And I think the other challenge for all marketeers is if you have 30 seconds, that's probably a luxury. With the world of social media, it's 7 seconds, 6 seconds, 9 seconds. And you've got brand as one component, but you also offer a kind of a string of or slew of products and technologies. In the case of Pirelli, we've got the Cyber Tyre with sensors mounted inside the tire that talks to the car's onboard diagnostics. In the case of the new P0E, you've got run forward technology. And to try and explain that to a consumer in a very short space of time is not easy. So it's to try and generate the hook or the catch so that they show an acute interest, then communicate more via your digital channels, and then try and steer them in terms of where they can find your product and connect it with an experience that they enjoy. And then, of course, the journey starts for the 50 or 60,000 miles and perhaps and beyond with your brand, and ensure that they feel that's comfortable, it's a quiet ride, but that they're also on what we believe is kind of the most compelling best set of rubber out there.
Pirelli's constantly pushing the edge. I noticed just recently, last month, in fact, a joint development agreement signed with Bosch. And the idea there is that there would be the creation of a new software-based solution and driving function that would use sensors integrated into the tires. And that means more safety, more comfort, more sustainability. How much is this tire world just going exactly into the outer limits of technology adoption, creation, implementation?
I mean, you hit the nail on the head. I think it's about technological innovation, your digital relevance and transformation, and appealing to. I'll bring this up because this is what everybody carries
Your
on
mobile
or
phone.
with them 24/7, or at least when
Hmm.
they're not sleeping, right? So how could that speak to the most important elements in your life with your car, with your phone, your smart home? And it's with the smart technologies, we've been proud of introducing the Cyber Tyre with the McLaren Artura, where it does talk to the onboard diagnostics, and you can in real time, sense not only the tire pressures, but our road conditions are changing. And I think this future partnership is expanding it and making it more relevant and got more every day for consumers, because once they know there's something unique out there, they would like to be a part of it. And how we could act as an enabler to partake in our technologies with a company like Bosch, and of course, ultimately with the original equipment manufacturers.
Right, right. A few final things. Pirelli and its positioning as a brand. How do you want to position Pirelli going forward? What will you lean hard into?
We will continue to reinforce the brand as premium end consumer, but a high value brand. By high value, I mean a premium proposition, and customers can buy with confidence, and they know they're getting, the reliability, the research and development, which goes into setting Pirelli apart. It's also about the technological innovation. I talked about the noise cancelling, Pirelli noise cancelling system, about run forward technology, ways and means which we can optimize in the case of the run forward technology. If you do strike something and the car's completely, or the tire is completely destroyed, you can drive up to 25 miles at 50 miles per hour without compromising the sidewall. It's just to get you to that next destination. So again, the engineering and the thinking that goes into this degree of innovation is startling, and it shows a strong commitment. Also being environmentally and socially responsible. So we've made some very, very clear commitments towards being carbon neutral in 2040. And our leadership firmly believes in that. And we are gearing the organization and affecting it day by day to try and deliver on that vision, because we've gone out there and made that statement. So we want to honor and fulfill that. And then I think it's important to say, I said high value, but in prestige and ultra high performance leadership, it's where we are strong. You don't want to walk away from that. So it's building the brand as far as that's concerned, but also looking at exploiting other segments. And we will make an announcement in the next couple of weeks about, a very strong, formidable entry of ours into the all-terrain segment. So with appeal to trucks. And, would you apply a high degree of dynamic driving in off-road and more demanding conditions, which is a different tread pattern. So again, developed and engineered from here in North America with our team in Milan for greater relevance, and then ultimately setting ourselves up for success, saying the brand that competes so well in Formula One now brings you this highly credible proposition in the all-terrain segment. So borrowing from who we are and what we do to encroach and expand our presence in those other segments. And then, of course, seal inside technology. I've already mentioned elect with our Pirelli electric vehicle proposition. We will continue to expand and grow that, because it's a proposition for the future. So work along with the original equipment manufacturers, bring new variants out, and ultimately service them on the replacement side. So never a dull day. Having fun in the process of what we do with customer events and engagements. And I think it's just embracing all of those dynamics. And it's like a synthesizer, always tuning them to ensure that the brand moves forward at a progressive pace, and that we also develop, a winning team to set ourselves apart in the future and hold our own and defend our position.
And here we had this entire conversation, Andre, and we didn't even talk about the possibility of Formula One going back to your native South Africa.
Well, you read a lot about that, and it's we've taken the sport to the outskirts of the world. I think for emerging countries such as that, it is a phenomenal opportunity to host, an event such as Formula One. if they could find a way, even amongst 2 or 3 countries, to do that and rotate it, I think it will be fantastic or spectacular. We've seen with World Cups what it does to not only the culture of the particular country, but also the significant economic injection. You see that with Formula One. So maybe there are smart ways to try and make the sport more global as they can possibly be. But fingers crossed, who knows?
And Greg Maffei just said on this program there is a long list of, to no surprise to you, but long list of cities and places that have raised their hand to say we want in. If you're going to rotate, if you're going to expand, if you're going to change the landscape, there is Indonesia, there is South Korea. We mentioned Africa as well. So the sky is the limit for this, isn't it?
Formula One has proven that if they've got a dream and ambition, they can pull it off.
Yeah.
I mean, Las Vegas was a really good example thereof. Who would have guessed? And 2 hours before, you're still driving on the strip, and 2 hours later, it's the starting line for a Formula One grid. So it's hard to fathom all the work and the infrastructure that needed to be put in place. But if you were there, they pulled it off, and it was a fantastic show. Fantastic experience to be part of that race weekend. And you just mentioned South Africa. Imagine Formula One against the backdrop of Table Mountain at any time of the year. I don't think any spectator or visitor to the country will be disappointed, and it will help build the cachet of Formula One and how it takes the sport to the corners of all corners of the world.
And one final thing, you have a beautiful trophy sitting over your left shoulder right now. Tell me a little bit about that trophy.
Well, when you and I talked about Formula One, so I thought, well, what better way than to bring one of those props with? And hopefully you can see the color on my screen. It's not as clear, but that is it's a smaller model of a Formula One tire, so based of 18-inch, now just modularized. This is the soft compound. You can see the red normally used during Q3, or what people want to do to deliver their best performance or their fastest lap. And we've worked with a partner there to develop a speaker. So that's actually a Bluetooth speaker. And if we had surround sound, I would actually connect that up, and then we could hear it from all sides. But again, our Pirelli design team working with smart partners and giving consumers something that they would want. And it's just a really, I think, an innovative, creative proposition. And tires could be exciting and also sound good in the process.
You've made tires exciting in the process. Andre, thank you so much. It was great to catch up with you again, and thank you for walking us through a dynamic, ever-changing, fascinating world that you're in right now.
I really appreciate the opportunity. It's been wonderful. Thank you for creating this opportunity after 200 visits. Hopefully we can have a representative before we get to 400, but it's always a real pleasure to speak to automotive fans, people who love cars and culture. And again, I feel privileged to have been a part of it. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Andre. Thank you.